Hello, hello. Add to two people. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's turn this up. Okay, I invited the two guests to come on, so we're just giving them the moment to do so. I'll do it again. Too. I'm not sure. Let's see what's happening. I invited the two. Okay, so it says unable to join. So I invited the guest, however, it's saying unable to join. So let me try to figure this out, y'all. Many technical difficulties. 1 second. Oh, no. What is happening, technology? So I'm adding you guys to join, but I'm not sure why it's saying unable. So if Robert and Mel, if you guys could request to join, and we could see if that works. If not, we're probably gonna have to like cancel it and start over. So can you see if you guys could request to join? Let me see. And that works. What is okay, there we go. We got one. Okay. So Robert, if you could request to join instead, because I'm not sure what is happening. Let me see. We're waiting for the other person. Many technical difficulties, but it's okay. We got this. Welcome.
All right.
You have no idea. Let me see. Alrighty. Let's see what we can do here. So we can get this started. No, Robert, if you're on here, can you please press request to join? Because I'm not sure why the invite isn't going, or accept the invite. Understand. All right, let me see. I got one more method, and then I have to figure this out. Let me see. Oh, thank you guys for your patience. Let me see. All right, I'm on the back end. Okay, I wrote him. I'm not sure what's happening on his end that it's not going through.
Copy.
But shout out to everyone who's already here, logged on. Okay. Oh, let me see. There we go. We
Hey,
got it.
going on? You had sent the request in. I kept clicking on it. It wasn't allowing me to do it, so I don't know what that was about. But we here.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about either, but we are here. So let's just do that. Anyway, so welcome. Technical difficulties happen all the time, which is okay. But you both right here, so that's all that matters. So
Right.
what I'm gonna just do a little mini intro, then we're gonna get started. So hello, good people. Welcome to In Session. In being an acronym for the word intentional, so intentional sessions, where we use this platform to discuss things like culture, mental health, relationships, and how they all may intertwine. My name is Raquel Simmons. I am a pre-licensed marriage and family therapist. And before we start, ladies, don't attack me. I would like to say Happy International Women's Day. I know it looks crazy for us to be speaking to two men on this day, but if you think about it, this is actually one of the most, listen, hear me out. This is actually the most intentional, most powerful, most impactful things I feel like I can do is to speak to two Black kings on Women's Day, to actually hear what you guys are thinking, pick your brains, and actually see where you both are coming from. And so with that being said, I would like you both to introduce yourselves. And so I'll start with Mel, if you can introduce yourself, and then we'll go with Rob.
Introduce myself. What you want
Say
me to
your
say?
name, your Instagram, or maybe something you're interested in, what you do.
My name is Mel J. Content creator from the Bronx, artist, entrepreneur. Yeah, I do a lot of different things. All I do is create content, videographer, photographer, cameraman, MC, all that. You know what I'm saying? Anything that got to do with the arts, dance,
Hey,
all
thank
that.
you. Very artistic. Thank you so much. The man of all trades. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
the jack of all trades.
So, Rob, can you please introduce yourself? Maybe you could say your name, what you do, where you're from.
Absolutely, absolutely. First and foremost, happy International Women's Day. You know what I mean? So don't think that it's crazy that you have two men on here, because without the women, we wouldn't be here. So that's first and foremost. So salute to all the ladies and everybody that's well deserving of this day. You know, enjoy your day. My name is Robbie. Call me Rob C, Rob, whatever. I don't really care for Robert, even though it's my name, I love it. But you know, just call me Robbie. I feel like it's a little bit more intimate. You know, it make you feel like I know you. But I'm a case manager, senior advocate for youth offenders in the Bronx. But I'm from Harlem. I personally I just feel like, you know, a lot of times, you know, we could look back at our lives and feel like there are things that we wish we could have done, and I still think there are things that we can do. And the things that we can do is to give back to the kids who also know that there is an outlet, and we're like the mirror. They're the mirror reflection that we wanted to change in ourselves. So if they trust us enough to follow our lead, or we can guide them in the direction that they would like to go into, because they haven't been in the depths and the seas that we've been into, then I'm able to lay my head. But outside of that, as far as my profession, I'm also a content creator. You know, I do the live podcasts and talk shows and things of that nature, and topics vary from relationships, mental health, music, anything that you could think of, fashion, designs, all that good stuff, just to give our people an outlet.
Okay, period. Okay, love that.
Sure.
Both content creators, both people, both Black men changing the world, and I'm always here for it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So we are gathered here today. No, I'm kidding. No, the reason why we are here today is to respond to the question that I have proposed. So the question is as follows. If emotions are taught to us as a fundamental aspect of our childhood, why are men encouraged to suppress their emotions as they develop into adults? So, quick backstory. I'm obviously not a man, but I can see and grow up around Black men. And so being able to see that as a woman, we could definitely see there's a huge difference. Women are supposed to be more of the emotional, delicate beings, but so are babies. So women and babies are kind of intertwined. Babies are like, okay, we got to be nurturing. We have to be soft. We have to be very careful. But then men are taught to, oh my God, once they get to a certain age, it's like aggression, it's anger. Like, don't really be too emotional because you'll be labeled as like soft, or don't pay attention to who you are vulnerable with, or are you even able to be vulnerable? But also men are babies. Men were babies, you know, like, so when did that change is my question. Like, when did that gap actually happen? And so before we even answer that or get into it, I would like to ask you both this kind of like, what are your thoughts when hearing this question? So I'll say it again, and then I'll have Mel, you go first to say, like, what is your thoughts on this? Is it true? Is it not true? Am I just kind of making this up? Or if so, if it is true, can you relate and things of that sort? So I'll restate it, and then I'll have you respond. So if emotions are taught to us as a fundamental aspect of our childhood, why are men encouraged to suppress their emotions as they develop into an adult?
I think it's just like trying to level out the balance because we supposed to be providers, protectors, and so I think it's like people have a hard time with understanding that there's a middle ground between things, but usually people put things like all the way at the bottom or all the way at the top. Like it's either extreme or it's like not really as important. So when it comes down to that, I think that it's only said to that degree because women are very emotional, and somebody gotta, in order to create the balance, you gotta have somebody who's gonna be hold that down, because the woman can't be crying and the man crying too. You know what I'm saying? Like we both can't be crying. Somebody gotta make sure we good, and because emotion, like females have certain emotions that can't be held down as much as men, because they go through different situations, body changes. They got that monthly. Men don't have that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we expect it to hold it down more, especially because like when things get real, we can't start crying and be, oh my God, what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? That's usually a female trait. So it's like when things get real, you gotta be able to be like, what I'm about to do? Like I gotta make shit, I gotta make things happen. I gotta, hold my head up. I gotta be strong. And also they're gonna look at us like we weak. Like if you gotta, like it's one thing if like even if you're in relationships or like you got a man who crying a lot and she going to telling her friends that, oh yeah, this nigga be crying. It's not gonna be looked at the same like, oh, the man's telling, yeah, shorty always crying and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, she is a female. So it's like certain things that's just like subliminally and certain things that's taught. I think mothers try to protect they child when they tell them that they can't cry, because it's just like nobody really has sympathy for that, especially as a man, because we got to hold it down for real, for real. So
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing. There's certain things that I do want to pick apart, but I want to allow Rob to say his initial thoughts at first. So,
Right.
Rob, we can pass it over to you.
For sure. To answer your question, I personally think that why are men taught to suppress their feelings is because we've been programmed to suppress our feelings. So think about it like this, like not necessarily, I'm talking more general as opposed to personal with me and the king right here. Think about it like growing up between, I would say, the ages of like, newborn to about 12, maybe 13 years old. Like whenever you cry and it don't make sense to your parent, if we come from a single parent household, it was always relayed. The message was relayed to, if you don't stop crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry for. So we were all taught to like not, you know, channel that emotion with showing how vulnerable we were feeling. So what happens now is, you know, as we get older, when we think to cry, because that's our natural body's response, we think about the consequence and the discipline that comes with it. So what happens is now we've learned to survive by keeping our feelings to ourselves. So by the time we become men, now we don't have a real sense of guidance and leadership, or we've seen a man show us what it meant to be able to express our emotions. You get what I'm saying? So all through our lives, if it's not in the households, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, where they're telling us real men don't cry, or what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, and that's the wrong thing to teach us. You know, at the end of the day, think about it like this. Like, I don't know if Bro can attest to this, but I personally feel like, think about the times when you were playing sports or whatever it is you was doing, dancing or anything like that. You might have failed, you might have did anything, and you might have missed a step, or you might have made a mistake. They tell us to man up. Now, mind you, because of where we come from, we feel like we muster this strength and we turn into the Hulk, and then we go against that challenge with somewhat the ability of thinking that we can do it, but we don't do it as calmly and as positively we should, because I think it would bring us more peace to be able to do it in a calm state of mind. But what happens is, like when you're telling somebody to man up, a lot of times we're already discouraged because we already messed up at something. So the last thing we need is another challenge when you're telling us to man up.
No,
Thank you for
facts.
sharing. Mel, if you want to respond to that or have any like thoughts.
Now, I know I do think that there's times where it's necessary for you to man up, because it ain't gonna look tough for you to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, in certain situations where it's not even worth crying. If you say, yeah, it's okay to cry for everything, it's really not in the end of the day, because you waste mad time crying about stuff that's over, like spilled milk. You know what I'm saying? Like, why cry over the spilled milk, whatever how they say. And I think that's really what it is for me. Because yeah, I think that there should be a healthy space that we should be allowed to express our emotions, but it shouldn't be like our first go-to. Our first go-to shouldn't be cry. Our first go-to like should be to hold it down, especially because just how life is, and just how like certain things, it's not even that big. It's not that, you know what I'm saying? It's not that serious. Yeah, I was raised where we get a scratch on the knee. Are you dead? No. So keep going. What you know what I'm saying? That shit don't matter. So it was just like, all right, you good. You gonna be all right. Put a little neosporin on it, a little Band-Aid. Keep it moving. Like, you good. Like, my limbs is hanging out. All
Boom,
right, we go to the
now
hospital,
you
get you
all
stitched
right?
up, and keep it moving. You a bad. Like, yeah, it's no, come here, baby. No, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes it's like, that's needed sometimes, but sometimes it's not. Because then that softens them up. And we see in the society now where they give people all kind of extra love and care, but now it's like they can't do nothing on their own. They real soft, they real emotional. You can't say certain things or they're gonna have a breakdown. They gotta take mental days off from work because somebody said they was ugly or something. Now they gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like it creates a softer vibe of a person. I don't think that that's always the healthiest. Like,
Robbie, you want to respond before I like jump
Now,
in to it?
well, I mean, just real briefly, like, I actually agree with what he's saying too, because like there are times where it's like man up, because I don't think that every time you say man up, it's a sense of telling it to somebody who's already feeling discouraged. Because like I said, like when I'm playing sports or whatever the case may be or whatever, sometimes it's a challenge or a barrier that I created that's there, that's not really there. So if you know me and you're on my team, you're encouraging me and trying to push me to get past that barrier. So in the sense of that, I totally agree with it. You get what I'm saying? And then also to his point as well too, like if you see somebody's down, and like I think one of the things we do is like we're not quick to embrace or help one up. Like we always want to do it first before somebody do it. So I think that's one of the things where like the man up thing comes along with it, because it's almost like, oh well, you know, um if you were a man, you would and like people ideologies of what they think a man is, they'll perceive their projections of what that is, and then you feel like you gotta man up to that challenge when that's something that they placed on you. So now, as opposed to just doing what you have to do, you have a point you feel like you have to prove to yourself to prove them wrong.
Really quickly, thank you so much, Rob, for even pointing that out. Really quickly, someone just put crying isn't the only way to express emotions. And so both of you kind of touched on it of like, it's not okay to cry or so what other ways do you feel like is can men actually express their emotions that doesn't necessarily give off crying? Or is there any way?
That's the thing. I think we all gotta learn stuff like that in order to understand that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like even there's no middle ground with a lot of things. Like it's like crying or getting upset. You know what I'm saying? It's like you turn up in the savage mode, or it's like I'm emotional and I'm down and I'm depressed. Now I think that there's certain things in that middle that we gotta learn, and that's certain things that we're not taught for real, for real. Like us, like we taught a whole lot of things, but we don't know how to deal with emotions all the time, and that's not something that at the house that we're always taught. On this damn show, not in the schools. You know what I'm saying? I know how to add letters and stuff, but I don't know how to deal with my emotions. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little weird, but I don't know. I think that's something that's the thing that we all got to find out, and that's the thing that'll be hard because once you get used to a certain pattern, you get comfortable with it. So you grew up in an environment where once you feel a type of way, you turn up. Now you on fight mode, you on savage mode. You know what I'm saying, gang? It's all that, or you in the motion where every time something happens, you suppress, you cry, you isolate yourself, or you just shut down and there's middle things that we got to do in order to find those healthy habits to really change us. And I think that's what we have to learn. I don't know. I ain't gonna hold you because for me it always been turned up, and I'm trying to learn how to turn down. So I ain't gonna hold you. Like for me, it's like, but only because I know it was mom's my mother. You know, you don't cry. Crying is for bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like bitches cry, men don't cry. Like so, it was just like, all right, bet you got it. I'm tough. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it kind of shape you. But then it's weird. Like we gotta get older and unlearn the things if they're not valuable to our life and where we're going and our path that we headed in, and we have to teach ourselves new things, but we have to know what those things are, and that comes with like accountability at first to even realize like, oh, I be wilding. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, why do I feel this way and how am I going to express it? You know what I'm saying? Because it's not always cry or turn up. So you got to learn those things for real. I got to learn those things. Let me say that. I don't know. I ain't gonna hold you. I don't know. Nigga said meditate. You can meditate. You gotta meditate, get your mind right. But you don't. In the beginning of that, you start thinking, "Yeah, I'm gonna hurt this person. I'm gonna kill him." You know, you try to meditate. You can't think about nothing else besides the shit you got going on. So it's baby steps. It's steps
So,
you gotta
Rod,
take.
thank you so much, Mel, for sharing. That was definitely insightful. And yes, heavy on the need to unlearn. And so, with that being said, and keeping in mind, like, where we learn things, Rob, do you, and I feel like someone said, like, society doesn't allow men to express those levels of emotion. But what about the environment that we are, like, brought up in? Like, how do you feel like your environment, outside of, like, your inside your household, what about the environment do you feel like has a positive or negative look on your emotions?
Well, as far as the environment and where I came up at, not to bash no one, no man, no woman, anything like that, especially on International Women's Day, anything like that. But,
Please.
but now, there's unfortunately, a lot of us come up in single parent households, which trickles down to us being in the street, and a lot of the positive influences that we see, generally speaking, because of course every one person is different and have a different story, but generally speaking, in these inner cities, we see a lot of positive women, and women are more prone and more receptive to be emotional, and their emotions be receptive because they have a shoulder or an outlet to cry to or cry on, whereas this is what we see. So as young men, we're raised up on testosterone. So, you know, the first real men that we usually encounter in our lives are some men of authority. And at that point, we already been raised by women who've been shown us, that showed us how to show emotion. So like, you know, now that our mothers aren't there, you know, that's the real person we're trying to hide our feelings from, because we don't want to get disciplined physically or chastised. So now when we're around these adult or authority figures that happen to be men and positive aspects, what happens is now we're we're indirectly act like we see the behaviors of women or what we've learned in the household, in the community, and we act out irrationally as well too. And we take that out on the people. So like the person said in the comments, as far as unlearning, I always say reset, reboot, and because a lot of us was raised wrong and we stayed strong, so we are in survival mode, so we're always tense. And like I said, like we have a mixture of emotion because we see that and we think it's okay, but it doesn't benefit us. So what happens is we don't have these groups or these safe spaces where we can communicate to one another and express what we feel and work through what we feel. We work through what we feel, like Mel said, by acting irrational, whether that's fighting or making somebody feel bad. Like we learn to push somebody down so we can come up. And that's and then at the end of the day, in the moment of whenever we're doing that, we feel good, but in the long term effects of that, it doesn't benefit us because we're still in that same cycle. So we're continuing this cycle over and over again. And next thing you know, now we're the next group of men that's supposed to lead a generation of these new young men coming up. And then next thing you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One of the things you said, well, we don't benefit from it. And so I want to just kind of hear you both, your aspect or your perspective on, well, yes, this is the way we were taught, but how do you feel like that is congruent to who we are now? And so what I mean is, like, do you feel like that is okay? Or do you just feel like this is what I know?
Well, again, like at a certain point in my life, I definitely thought that was okay because that's all I did know. But as you grow, you learn. Hopefully, you learn, and once you do learn, you know you the goal is to learn right from wrong. So once you see what you've been doing is wrong, like Mel said earlier, it takes for us to have accountability or at least learn it so that we can reassess what it is and how we're feeling in order to know what to do next, as opposed to knowing we feel a way and acting on that feeling.
Okay. Mel, what do you think? Yep, I got it.
Restate the
So
question real quick.
basically what I was just asking is, well, Rob was able to say, like, yeah, this is not okay. Like this is this doesn't benefit us, is the word that he used. And so I was trying to see, like, okay, so since this was learned and since you have learned this, do you feel like this is okay now? Do you feel like this is just the way things have to be because of who I am?
Nah, you can't. Yeah, you can't. I understand. I think that this is who I am. That's a mentality that keep you stagnant and stuck into where you at. And anything in life is about growth and elevation. So anything that's going to cause you to be like stuck in that, or stuck in a time period, or stuck in a situation, I don't think that that's healthy at all for no situation, no human being, because everything evolves. So we got to evolve with the time. Is it okay? Of course it's not okay. You know, I always think that, just like I said, I'm gonna keep saying it, like balance. It's all about understanding the balance. Everybody's balance is different. Everybody's life is different. So some people could have been nurtured too much. Some people haven't been nurtured enough. You know, some people, like me, I fell victim of the person who works whenever they go through something. That's why I do a lot and I have a lot of skills, because every time something happens, I go learn something else. I go do something else. I got to figure out how to, you know what I'm saying, how to do this, how to do that. I'm just like, fuck whatever's going on, because I can't really think about it, or I'm going to get stuck in it. I'm gonna get trapped in it, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just like, I bet. Nobody taught us how to deal with it. So now the way I'm going to deal with it is what I'm used to, and that's working. That's going out and doing things. So, you know, I had to unlearn that certain things about that too, because it's just like you can't work through every situation. Sometimes there's certain things you gotta face. Some things you can't run from it. You know, so that's probably like a flight mechanism. So some people, you know, the fight or flight. Some people face the shit head on, and some people they gotta find outlets or find ways to get around it. Whether it's, you know, get high, get drunk, or turn up, or whatever the case may be, go out. Like for me, it was just like work, create something, edit something, do something. You know what I'm saying? Work out. Like it was always it wasn't, but it doesn't lead to a healthier mind. You know, so of course there need to be a lot of things done differently. So you can't stay in that mind of this is what it is, and also it's not fair and it's not right. So of course you can't say, yes, it's right for us to do. Of course not, because you got to find balance with it as time go on. That's all you got to do, bro.
Thank
Like,
you. Thank you for sharing. So
for
my question is,
real.
even hearing you both say that, what do you feel like you would change? So not to get too deep, but if you could change like a specific way or a specific experience that you've had when you were younger, what aspects do you feel like you would either change or add or implement? So we'll go with Rob first. What do you feel like? And please do with this question what you will. You don't have to get too deep, but just as much as you're openly willing to share, what would you feel like you would add that you felt like you were missing, or what would you take away that you feel like you got way too much of?
Me personally, if I could change anything or I could go back in time and have things my way and pertaining to what you're asking me, I think what it would be is to have a strong, secure village of men, not only in my family, but in my community that was secure in themselves enough to be the men that they truly are, because the show emotion doesn't mean that you're feminine or anything like that. And I think it would help us in the long run to not do anything irrational, whether it's us acting out physically or emotionally or anything like that. And the reason why I personally say that is because, so, obviously with knowing what we were talking about tonight, I was reading up on something, and pretty much from this, what I was reading earlier, from a study from Harvard School of Public Health and University of Rochester, they found out that men who bottle up their emotions increase their chances of premature death from all causes by 30%, and with the risk of dying from cancer increasing by 70%. So don't harden your heart to the people in your life. Instead, learn to speak truth and the love. So, like, a lot of times what happens is, we're programmed, like Mel said, to like, don't cry, don't show emotion. Oh, you better not. You get what I'm saying? And then what happens is we get to the point now we're in relationships with somebody that's supposed to be our life partner or whoever it is that we're dealing with, and we're okay with not feeling okay, but telling them that we okay and still feeling an emotion, but not working through or finding a resolution for that emotion. But because we haven't had no examples of this, I would want to be in a household and not just a community of people where people are human, people will express and go through emotions and they work through them, so that when I got to the point where I was at that phase of my life, I would be able to not only be able to like feel okay with what I'm feeling, but work through what I'm feeling. And a lot of us don't have that. And I know that not only based off my upbringing, but because of the young men that I work with now. Like one of the kids I work with now, who is like, they deem to be a menace to society. Like one time, like once he opened up to me or whatever, I asked him what's one of the issues that you have, and he was like, that my father chooses to be a selective dad and raising who he want to raise. And I'm like, how has that impacted you? He was like, sometimes my mother hug isn't enough. Sometimes I want him to hug me too. So like, we want love, but we don't get it. And then we grow up and we create what we think love is. And now it's disoriented. It's all over the place. And now we just out here with the shenanigans doing whatever and whatever. So like, again, what Mel said, and I love that he said it earlier, we have to reboot, reset, and get all that what we taught, throw it out. And that comes with growth and accountability. Once we have that accountability, then we're able to not only save ourselves, but have a community of men that trust us enough to not only come to us and confide in us, but be able to show emotion and be able to express it to everybody, or not everybody, but those who they trust with their vulnerability, so that we're able to come together and get past things. Because a lot of times we get caught up in a debate or a disagreement, and the reason why we don't get through it, because now we're so focused on what I said, I don't know how I said it, as opposed to what I said. You get what I'm saying? Because my feeling isn't to intimidate you or make you feel like you are wrong. I'm telling you how I felt for a reason, and hopefully we can work through that. And then if you felt the way about the message and what I'm saying to you, then we can discuss that as well too. Because I feel like I'm trusting you enough to be vulnerable with you. Then I can trust myself to allow me to not only express myself but to answer your question as well too. So I think a lot of times we don't have that as young men growing up. Like he said, you get a cut on your knee. Oh, brush that off. That ain't nothing to it. And then, you know, next to the next thing. You get what I'm saying? We picking our scabs. Like, I'm sure he could look at his knee. You got like 3-4 scars that you can remember what happened and everything. So, you know what I mean? Listen, the Band-Aid it serves its purpose, but at some point you gotta nurture it with love, and it's the same thing.
Mm.
So that's what we need. Like, if I can go back and change that, it's just to show that we can express our emotion, still be a man or masculine, because the term masculine is so disoriented. It's to the point now it's become subjective. Like, if you ask 10 different people what masculine mean, we're going to get 10 different definitions when the main definition is right there.
Ooh. Okay, yes. Thank you so much, Rob. That was very detailed, but that was like, I'm like, dang. Whew. Like, tell me more. But Mal, hot seat now.
If there was anything I could change, I'll keep it simple, but it's basically some things that he said. It's just like love being practiced in the home and not just being looked for in the streets. And I think that that becomes one of the biggest problems that we have, because a lot of people, we don't have that love that's in the crib the way we want it, or the way we'd expect it to be, or the way we see in movies or whatever. And people only give you based off of what they know. There's some parents that they already programmed, they already have their way. Listen, life is tough. I gotta treat you tough so you could be ready for the world. But then it's like, if you treating me tough in the crib, the world's treating me tough when I go outside. Where's the good? Where's the vulnerability at? Where do I have that space for? You know what I'm saying? Or it's with people who's rich, whether you rich, poor, doesn't matter. Rich kids, they mommy, daddy throw the money, but they not really around. You know what I'm saying? They working all the time. Our parents, they around all the time. They bugging us. They ain't got that much money, but you know what I'm saying? Now it's like they on our backs, and it's just like it gotta be. Love has to be practiced in the home, and it has to be exercised, because it's not perfect, but that's why it has to be practiced. Because I understand you came from what you came from. You had 50, 60 years, because anytime something happened, they're going to remind you, I've been in this world way longer than you, whatever the case may be. That's cool, which is why you should understand that things need to change. And this is why you should understand that it's time for us to do different things, or at least try something different. Because if a child exercises to their parent, I don't feel good, I'm not happy, or whatever the case may be, that parent shouldn't look at it like, whatever, just because they're a man. They should be able to be like, all right, well, what's wrong? And I feel like there's a lot of us that never even had that conversation. We don't sit around the table and talk during dinner time. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's in their designated areas watching whatever soap opera, cartoon, Netflix, whatever time it is in the world that we in. That's what people is doing. So I feel like we have to be able to have that love in the crib, because once we go outside, it's like, if you don't got it there, you're gonna look for it somewhere else. Now you're going outside, and that's when people join the gangs and all of this. They like, we like the family you always wanted. They be using lines like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't got no family in the crib. You don't feel secure there. You don't feel like, you know, it's all about everybody looking for love. That's why people can't be by themselves. That's self-love. Self-love is important too. Just having somebody that, it's not even about loving someone, about loving yourself. Because you don't make the same decisions if you love yourself than if you don't. Like, you automatically, you won't even manifest the same things when you love yourself. Like, you could be in a whole bullshit situation, and that's only because of how you feel about yourself. Because if you really love yourself, you wouldn't even put yourself there. So if that's taught in the crib that you are special, you are worthless, you are worth something, you are not worthless. Like, you could be something in this world rather than what the society tells you you're supposed to be or you doomed to be. Because if that was the case, I would have been going a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in the hood with certain situations, drugs in the house, violence in the house. We ain't never seen a happy relationship. I ain't never, you know, so with those statistics of what they say that's supposed to be, I could have been in a way
Right.
worse situation than where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? It's just like being able to even call your parents to get that recognition, to be like, hey, you're doing great. You know what I'm saying? Keep it up. Like, start certain little things like those be important. And that all come with like love and nurturing and stuff like that. So if that was in the crib, that'd be the only thing I'd change. Because with that love, everything else falls in the suit. Like, you don't even have to You already know your heart is in that place. But when it's in a disruptive, miserable, angry environment that's been nurturing it, like it's been nurtured by violence, and so you think that. So when something happened, the first thing you thinking is, nah, I'm about to turn up. I'm about to. Who you think you talking to? Somebody looking at you. Now you like what you looking at, rather than, of course they looking at me. You see me? Like you know what I'm saying? Like like you know what I'm saying? Like you feel offended rather than embracing it. So I think that love in the crib, that's the, no matter what you got, because you could, it's not about what you miss, your father not there, da 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 da. Let's work with what we got, what's here. Let's use what's here and grow from that.
Yes. Definitely love that. Both of your responses was amazing. One of the things that I want to point out is the relationships that you have. So how do you feel like now your relationships moving forward has impacted? Like, how do you feel like your relationships has been impacted since this is the way we've been brought up? So Rob, you want to tackle that?
Relationships as in like partner relationships, or just relationships with people in general?
So that's a great question. And so we'll say a little bit of both. But yeah, so we'll say a little bit of both, and I do want to tackle both, but I don't want to let's go with relationships with other people around you, and then we'll go into relationships with your partners.
All right. Well, as far as the people around me, again, like Mel said, as far as like growing up, like, like a lot of us, me personally, I'm the oldest of my mother's children. So what happens is, with me being the oldest of four children, once it gets to the point where it looked like I can somewhat survive on my own, not in the sense of like being able to go get a job and do things like that, but I could kind of mend for self. Like I can be outside and my mother don't have to worry about me too much and things of that nature. Now, like mommy don't know that I might need a hug, or I might need some loving and some or whatever, because I'm in there trying to be up under her. And the first thing Robbie, get up out of here. What you doing? Like, your brother hungry, or your sister this, or whatever. So now I go outside. I don't really convey that message to my boys or the relatives I might have in my community, my neighborhood. But what happens is, a lot of times they come from that same treatment as well, because they got a big family as well. So now we're together all day long, and we're listening, not to knock the music, because I love some of it as well. We're listening to this misogynistic music. We got this misogynistic message that's being projected us from the big homies in our community, telling us that this ain't this and this ain't that, or whatever. So mind you, I think the beauty of it for me was that I never had nobody I grew up wanting to be. I had people in my neighborhood I grew up not wanting to be like. But at the same time, I feel like, with me being observant, I indirectly took on some of the traits of these men that I didn't want to be like, because that's all I seen. So when I come home from school, or where I come from anywhere, this is home. So it might not be in like where I actually pay the rent space, but the lobbies, the corner store, like this is my whole world. This is all I see. This is my globe. So no matter how hard or how good of a person you are, you start to inbreed some of these qualities and characteristics, and now you see it as an adult. Like, for me personally, like, when I don't realize I'm wrong in what I'm saying to somebody as far as their feelings, until after I convey my message, or after I'm able to take a second to reflect and realize, you know what, I could either said that a better way, or I could have done it a better, or said it a better way, whatever the case may be. Like, these are things that, like, I think, like Mel said, like, every time I hear accountability, I be wanting to jump up for joy. You know what I'm saying? But no, like, the fact that I have the gift to be able to have accountability and hopefully right my wrongs, because again, we can't control people. So whenever we have people that's in our lives that we trust, that we're vulnerable with, like, even being irrational or erratic emotionally, you trust that person because you're giving them how you feel. Because think about the times you've been at work where you might have wanted to tell your supervisor or somebody at your job, but you have enough decency to realize, you know what, this is my job, I'm gonna hold it down. You care enough to hold it down. So we should be able to have that same man or woman power when we're talking about how we feel with one another. Because a lot of times I think there's a conversation that need to be had, but a lot of times we have that conversation when our emotions is high. And when our emotions is high, logic is low. So a lot of times we're talking and thinking from our heart, where our heart is only made to pump blood. We really supposed to think with this. So we're able to take a second to step back, reflect, and be able to be like, you know what, and convey your problem without being attacking or disruptive or commanding anything like that. A lot of times the person that you're talking to will receive the message the way you're expressing it, and from there we're able to work towards a resolution. But a lot of times there's no real resolution. Like when I sit down with people all day, whether it's relationships or with the youth I talk to, a lot of times the root of their problem is like they be mad at something else, and then they go into another situation, and that they're triggered from what happened before, and now they're acting out, and now you're dealing with more than just that problem or anything like that. So that's one of the things that we need to work on, and I can't stress it enough. And what I think us brothers need to do is create safe spaces for us to be able to communicate, because I'm not sure with Mel, but I've been in different groups, focus groups, therapy sessions, grief counseling and things like that, where it takes the bravest men in the room when all the men that's around us, like they're looking at the women, and the women are out the gate. They're just pouring it on. They're telling us how they feel. And listen, I be sitting there and I be commending them. Like, and then now the lady in the room, the moderator, she's looking around now. She's like, all right, fellas, you can talk. And then, we looking at each other, and then it takes that one man to like be the domino effect. And then when we hear his story, not only do we commend him on his bravery for being the first one to speak in that room, but then we are able to connect with him and then be like, damn, I realized that. And then next thing you know, we're able to pour out our emotion, whether that's us just being able to vocalize it, cry a little bit, or whatever the case may be, or embrace with a hug. We're able to unwind. And that's one of the things we don't do. We don't never get a chance to unwind. So we bottle up with anything, and with any soda. I don't care or whatever. You
God.
pick it up, do all this other stuff. I don't care what it is. When you open it, it's gonna buzz. And that's the same thing with our emotions. And we can't allow every time we go do something to keep bottling up, keep suppressing it, keep winding it down, and keep putting the top on it. Release it. We won't have a big explosion. We won't have to clean up the mess, because now we just worry about what's in our cup, not what's spilled outside of our cup.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Thank you so much, Rob, for sharing. Mel, how do you feel like this thought process of this upbringing of like you have to be tough, so mentality has shaped your relationships? And we're not talking about partner relationships. We're talking about so far relationships that we have around us.
For me, this is a personal experience. This is me. Right? You notice the people. Yeah, you can notice a lot about yourself depending on who you surround yourself with. And I feel like that showed me a lot about myself once I started to realize things about me. Like, that's why they say birds of a feather flock together. And I feel like when I was in a more darker, more angrier time, I realized my peers were also a lot of people who were going through a lot of things, and I think that what happens is we start to aid each other. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of my friends, we was just getting high. We was just chilling, doing disruptive things, and that's because of how we all felt about ourselves. It wasn't that we all was in the same position, but we all wasn't happy, or we all wasn't feeling the same. So I think as you start to, like, once I started to change myself within and things started to feel different, I noticed like a lot of things shifting. And at first you don't know what it is, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I was just looking at things that, I don't really, like certain things I entertained, I didn't want to entertain no more. And that dealt with or this person over here acting like I'm moving funny because I'm growing up and I'm moving things. But then it was just like on the accountability level, I always understood that there were certain people that didn't want to deal with me because I was in a certain light, and those people were more positive. Those people was in a better headspace personally, like, and people in a better headspace don't allow people with that negative headspace to really enter their aura, into their vibe, because they understand what that could do. If you dealing with somebody who, like, you could chime in and out to see if you care about the person, depending on who they are. With certain people, when they feeling positive or they feeling like more up, they in a better spirit, they're not gonna deal with certain negative energy. But when you more in that spirit, you just but like whatever. You know what I'm saying? You just like, yeah, whatever. Oh, niggas don't wanna fuck with me, fuck you too. But then it's like, look at how you acting about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how you going about it. This is probably why. But until you get to that level of seeing yourself at that surface, to be able to look at other people's perspective and being like, yeah, I can understand now that it's just like, it was damaging and toxic before, but now it's in a stage of, all right, so why? So now you could be more accepting to it, so you could change. But I definitely think it does a lot of damage. Like, it did a lot of damage to the past, but it also allowed me to see the shift as I make my changes within self and just learn to love myself more and do a lot of things that is self work. I get to see, oh, okay, because now I don't even want to deal with a lot of those people who are in that type of mindset. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm not dealing with it. I'm not putting myself in that energy and that vibe. I already see what type of time they on. Like, before, I was in demon time. It's let's go. We about to go kill, crush, and destroy. We out. But now it's just like, I got a little bit to live for now. You know what I'm saying? I care about myself a little bit more. Y'all go, what I'm saying? Like, and that's growing and growing every day. So, and that's so I think that I had to unlearn a lot of things that happened in the past in order to get there. So I know that it's the things that I've been through shaped it shaped the Grinch. Like, that's who it was, the Grinch back then. But you know that moment when his heart came, he was like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
I had that moment.
yeah.
Like, he fell, it got bigger. Yeah, I had that moment. So yeah. So overall, it was good because I got to see the changes. Because when you come from the light, you don't get to understand the darkness and being able to respect where you at. So when you come from the bottom and then you had to work your way up, whether that's emotionally, financially, physically, mentally, whatever the case may be, you have more respect for it, you got more humbleness and a better understanding of how to move forward and the fact that you did move forward.
Nah, definitely.
So
I,
yeah.
I totally agree with that because again, I think one of the key things you said is loving yourself one, and then also growth. When the growth, any real growth is uncomfortable.
Mm.
Any real growth, anything that you truly want is going to be uncomfortable. So with anything in this life, any type of growth is going to come with some things that you might have to ice out or cut off. And we have a sense of loyalty at times that hinder us sometimes, and we feel like we have to like hold on to it. But if it's weighing us down and not allowing us to grow, then we want better for ourselves. We got to do better for ourselves.
Hello.
So along with that as well too. So with loving ourselves to me is like knowing that we have to be at peace before peace is around us. So when you realize that the beauty that peace brings is like it's the most beautiful feeling in the world. And trust me, I'm still fighting to that. You get what I'm saying? So we have to understand, not just as men, but people, especially people of color, is that at the end of the day, this life is never going to be absence without storms, and nor should we despise them. But we should always be well equipped with not just ourselves, but our village, our people, our families to help us get through these strong storms that sometimes we feel like hinder us. And like I said, my story is crazy, and like I don't look like what I've been through. And sometimes that's a pro, sometimes it's a con, because I'm having internal battles that when I be wanting somebody to come and ask me when I'm all right, when I'm not. But at the same time, like, I'm able to push through. So it is a gift and curse with that. So like I said, we're not created to live a stress-free life. But I think if we're disciplined enough, what'll happen is we'll get through the stresses that hindered us and be a better person than we was yesterday.
Mm. Yes, thank you. So I do want to shift this a little bit because I want to allow you guys a lot of time, the strict hour. So what I do want to get to is like the closing question of, what do you feel like, or what advice would you give to men, maybe the people around you, or maybe the young kids growing up, so that they can actually say, like, it is okay to be emotional. It is okay to know when the right time to do specific things, or if it's not okay, like what kind of advice or would you give to young men growing up, or even the men in the community that you guys have around you?
I would say understand your why. Understand why, because when you do a lot of things, like if you want to cry, understand why you crying. You know what I'm saying? And to understand, what it's going to do. And sometimes that be needed because you got a lot of built up anger, a lot of built up frustration. And sometimes we be crying over things that's not even that important. You know what I'm saying? So understand your why. Like, why is this making you feel that way? And then you'll be able to evaluate whether or not it's worth crying over, whether it's not, if it's just something that you should just move on. A lot of us don't even understand why we be in certain moods, or understand why we why we feel a way about something somebody did, something somebody said, or. And then I think once we understand our why, we'll be able to analyze the situation differently and move about it differently. Because then it's like, all right, that made me feel away, but was that even really good for me? Like, did I really need it? Yeah, I lost this, but was it really a loss because it was stressing me out? You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll be mad at a job, but then lose the job, and then be like, damn, I lost my job, and now we upset. But it's like, first of all, a job is a minimum wage. It's not doing nothing special. You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I really upset? I could find another one, man. So it's just like, it's all about understanding the why, for real, in my opinion.
Nice. Rob.
Pose the question one more time, because the
Of
understand.
course.
I love the understanding of why. I got to use that, bro.
First of all, I agree. I'm like, dang, understand your why. Definitely, putting that out there.
Yeah,
Yes. I almost forgot the question because I'm so like deep in it. But I got it. So the question was, what advice would you give to either the young men in the community or the grown men in your community, or just the men in general? What kind of advice would you give them regarding their emotions, or regarding on how they should feel based on their upbringing?
I I think it's said done. Um, with the younger men, because it's easier to fix or help a child who's learning as opposed to fixing a broken man, because times a lot of men, knowing that they might be in circumstances and situations where they're wrong, they want to be wrong and strong because it works for them. Now with younger people, I think the beauty of it is, if you have accountability, again, like, you're able to know what's right and what's wrong, and help a young man or young person shape exactly what it is or what they want to do. And as far as their emotions, being able to express to them that it's okay to feel what you're feeling, because you feel that way. Like, there's a reason why you feel that way. So now that's work and assess why you feel that way, and get past it and understand the why behind it, because you felt this way because ABC or XYZ, and then from there get understanding. A lot of times we have emotions without having understanding, whether we understand the emotion or whether we are vulnerable enough to express it to someone, and they help us to understand why we feel this way. A lot of time we don't have that, and again, we suppress a lot of that, and that causes us to suppress, to where when we explode, nobody wants to help us. They want to condemn us or quiet us because we're so crazy. So as opposed to helping out with it, they just want to, they want to attack it. And now it's two things going at each other. And with men, we face that day in and day out, and that's just not healthy, because again, we were raised wrong, and we think because we stayed strong that we are right. We're a lot of these things that we've learned, we're not right. Like, think about it like this: even with the guys and OGs and the people in the streets,
Yeah.
as much as their praise, if it's not just their kids, or if they're involved in their community, they will tell the kids that they see have the bright future, don't do this. They will say this. I've seen it all my life. Yo, this ain't you, shorty. This not what you do. Things of that nature. And like, we need to let them know that what we did was wrong, as opposed to needing a foot soldier, a poverty soldier, that's what I call them. The people that have all this testosterone and being erratic and emotional or things like that, they're nothing but poverty soldiers. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to harp on them like that, but you're defending something that you don't own, that can't hold you down, that can't do anything for you. Like, we're in these situations where now we put ourselves so far in this hole that we can't pull ourselves out. And the people that wanted to help you in the beginning are the only people that's still there trying to help you now. So the people you were trying to impress, are nowhere to be found. And then they might be living out the rep that you had when you were out there. Like, it's nonsense, and it's getting sickening. And like, because I come from the community, grew up in the heart of Harlem and lived in different parts of Harlem and got older and built relationships with people throughout the city. So I done been in the Bronx, I done been in Brooklyn, I done been in Queens with family members and just close friends and things of this nature. Like, this is a vicious cycle that attacks our community. And before you know it, the only thing really get to suppress this stuff is, like what Mel said, with alcohol, the weed, and all that other stuff. And we think we feeling fine, but in all actuality, it's just the effects of what we're putting in our bodies to go through with what we're feeling. But the problem still hasn't been resolved. So, like, just showing these men and these young boys and the men who want to learn, because I'm not going to like take my hand away from a man who's trying to change or want better for himself. But if I see that you're making strides in ethics and doing so, then you got a friend, a brother, a supporter, a king, and all that in me. So I will never turn my back or a blind eye to you. You get what I'm saying? But at the same time, we have to know that what we were raised up on was wrong, because we're raised up on the idea of what they think a man, when the idea isn't the man.
Yeah.
Nah, facts. I'll say anything, it's that accountability. If I would have said anything besides like what I said, it would have been accountability, because accountability might be a step before that. Because with accountability, it's it comes with a whole lot of things that allows you to avoid a whole lot of bullshit. Because a lot of the times we look for like what this person did, rather than the part that we played. And a lot of times that's the only way to find the lesson in the things that we're doing, and that's the only way to move forward with the things that we're doing. Because when you realize the part you played, you can't change nobody else or what they did. So whatever they did to you, however they felt, all that other stuff, you can't really change that. It's all about working on the things that you have the ability to change. And I feel like when you have accountability, you get to see, this person played me, but do I know this person? No, I was a complete stranger. But did I see any signs? All right. I did see some signs. Did I have any gut feelings? All right, bet. I got to follow certain things. I got to look at the patterns that was followed, so I don't put myself in this situation again, rather than this person fucked me over, this person screwed up. I got to get back. It's about getting back into yourself so you can understand not to get back into that situation. So it's like, you can't, you just got to be accountable for your own actions, because you can't change nobody but you. So I like that accountability.
So we're going to end this session on the word accountability. Like, I love that. We're going to end this on that note. So with that being said, thank you both for joining us on this discussion. Thank you everyone who has put their input in the comments, been interactive and engaging. This was awesome. I'm going to close this out by saying thank you so much for joining the In Session, and being an acronym again for the word intentional. So intentional sessions, where we speak about everything from culture, relationships, mental health, and how they all intertwine. Thank you so much, Mel J, and Robbie, Robsy, a man of many names, for joining us today on our conversation. Their platforms will be within the comments. So please, if you guys feel free to like follow, reach out. If you guys want to connect with them, they are both men of many trades and many different talents. So please, everyone, check them out. Thank you so much for joining this session, and have a great night.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks.